Hello and welcome to this astrological forecast for the sign of Capricorn for the year of 2025. I strongly recommend watching the video for your rising sign for the greatest accuracy, but you may also use these videos for your sun and or moon signs if you so desire. The first item I will call your attention to for 2025 is the fact that Pluto is now in Aquarius in your second house to stay for almost another 2 decades, deeply transforming your money, values, or resources. Pluto has been back and forth between your sign of Capricorn and Aquarius since March of 2023, but that transition period is now over, with 2025 being the first full year of Pluto in Aquarius. This will be a time of the unearthing of what is hidden, having to do with how you make money, your material possessions, and what you hold important. Remember that this is a long, drawn-out process lasting almost another 20 years. In general, Pluto in Aquarius will transform everyone's relationship with technology, the collective, and the future. For you, Capricorn, Pluto's time in Aquarius will also have a lasting impact on your friends, groups, or allies. On February 23rd, Mars stations direct in Cancer in your 7th house of relationships. This is part of an ongoing story that first began in September or October of 2024 and does not conclude until May or June of 2025, involving increased effort and energy output in your major relationships as well as your shared resources, business, or issues of life and death, and how these areas are connected. With Mars retrograde taking it back and forth between your 7th and 8th houses, the topic of providing financial support for someone close to you is especially likely to be activated. Alternatively, your own financial dependence may be activated by this transit. Regardless of how it manifests for you, Mars is also opposite Pluto for so much of its retrograde, including both its pre-retrograde and post-retrograde shadow periods, indicating that your actions or motivations in your relationships and shared resources will be continually challenged to transform. There may be heightened competition, especially related to business or other financial matters, throughout this many-month-long period. Thus, although Mars' direct station on February 23rd is significant, it is still only a turning point in a larger story. While perhaps challenging, this is not something you should run from. Instead, utilize your Capricorn skills of discipline, hard work, and determination to meet what is required of you. In addition to your friends, groups, or allies, this transit will have a lasting impact on your home, family, or living situation. On March 1st, Venus stations retrograde in Aries in your 4th house of home. This too is part of an ongoing story, but one that does not begin until January of 2025 and does not end until May of 2025, involving the reflecting on and reconsideration of your relationships in your home or family as they relate to travel or what is familiar to you. The exact Venus retrograde itself lasts from March 1st through April 12th, during which time the effects of it will be at their most intense. Past relationships can also occasionally resurface at this time. For further clarification, consider this. Venus has an 8-year synodic cycle, meaning it retrogrades through almost the exact same part of the zodiac every 8 years, and thus you can look back in your life to what happened in March and April of 2017 and know that those themes will tend to repeat in some way this year during this Venus retrograde. Venus retrogrades occur every year and a half, and they often function as significant stress tests on existing relationships. It is a time of reevaluating your relationships as well as what it is that you truly want. In addition to your fun, love, or leisurely activities, this transit will have a lasting impact on your career or reputation. The March madness continues when on March 14th, a lunar eclipse takes place in Virgo in your 9th house of beliefs, indicating fateful developments in your beliefs, spirituality, ideals, or what is foreign to you. In fact, all of March is our first eclipse season this year, a time when great changes beyond our control take place. With the lunar nodes recently having shifted to the Virgo-Pisces axis and thus your 9th and 3rd house axis, fateful changes are also now occurring in your communication, travel, or what is familiar to you. Although to be precise, there was just barely a lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th, 2024, and so you may have already seen a preview of this theme around that time. The previous eclipse theme having to do with your home, family, or living situation finishes up for you in March, with the following solar eclipse on March 29th taking place in Aries in your 4th house, wrapping up major changes in this area that began about 2 years ago. From here on out for about the next 2 years, however, eclipses will be triggering fateful developments in your communication, travel, or what is familiar to you, as well as your beliefs, spirituality, ideals, or what is foreign to you, and somehow connecting these areas. On June 9th, Jupiter ingresses into Cancer in your 7th house of relationships, indicating growth, expansion, and good fortune in your major relationships for the rest of the year, especially if you were born during the daytime. You may notice in the chart on screen, however, that as Jupiter makes this ingress, it is is also square to Saturn in Aries in your 4th house, suggesting that the growth or expansion in your relationships creates ongoing stress with limitations in your home or living situation. For example, beginning a new relationship may cause you to realize that your home is not as accommodating for your partner as you would like it to be. Or, for those already in such a relationship, spending more time with your partner may conflict with obligations in your home. Again, these are just examples, and I wouldn't worry too much about it since overall this is a very positive transit with Jupiter's exaltation in Cancer, giving it great wherewithal and resources to handle the stress of Saturn. Your best strategy is to allow the growth or good fortune in your relationships to take place while keeping it in check with reasonable limitations. In addition to you personally, this transit will have a lasting impact on your money, travel, or ability to transcend suffering. On July 13th, Saturn stations retrograde conjunct Neptune in Aries in your 4th house of home. This is a big deal. The ingress of slow-moving Saturn and even slower-moving Neptune into Aries this year is one of the key indicators that 2025 is a year of great change, unlike anything we have seen for many years prior. It is, however, still only a preview of things to come, with both Saturn and Neptune retrograding back into Pisces by the end of the year and not being in Aries to stay until 2026. Specifically, Neptune will be in Aries from March 30th through October 22nd, during which time you will experience increased faith or idealism in your home, family, or living situation, though this will be tempered somewhat by the realism of Saturn when it too enters Aries on May 24th and remains there until September 1st, during which time you will experience increased order, structure, and discipline in your home, family, or living situation. When Saturn conjoins Neptune, confusing realities in your home, family, or living situation may manifest, and it is likely only through acceptance of them that you will find peace within them. With Saturn being your ruling planet, you may be hit particularly hard by its conjunction with Neptune, finding yourself feeling on the positive side more creative, spiritual, or transcendent, while on the negative side potentially confused, uncertain, or lost in illusion. Saturn will be within a 1-degree orb of Neptune from June 9th through August 4th, during which time the effects of the transit will be at their most intense. In addition to your communication, travel, or what is familiar to you, this transit will have a lasting impact on you personally as well as your money or values. On September 6th, the Uranus stations retrograde in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius. As with Saturn and Neptune, Uranus ingress into Gemini this year is another major indicator that 2025 is a year of great change. But also like Saturn and Neptune, it is still only a preview of things to come, with Uranus retrograding back into Taurus by the end of the year and not being in Gemini to stay until 2026. Specifically, Uranus will be in Gemini in your 6th house from July 7th through November 7th, during which time you will experience the shaking up of your work, health, or daily regimen. When Uranus trines Pluto, sudden liberation of repressed fear or desire takes place in your work or health, as well as your money or values, that ends up affecting your friends, groups, or allies. Remember, however, that this is only a preview of things to come for the next 7 years. Uranus will be within a 1-degree orb of Pluto from August 11th through October 28th, during which time the effects of the transit will be at their most intense. Due to the sudden nature of Uranus, however, I would pay particular attention to September 5th, 6th, and 7th, the days immediately before, during, and after Uranus exact retrograde station. Speaking of September 7th, that is also the day of a lunar eclipse in Pisces in your 3rd house of travel, indicating fateful developments in your communication, travel, or what is familiar to you. It also kicks off the main part of our 2nd eclipse season this year, which technically begins on August 23rd and ends on September 28th. Again, this is a time when great and powerful changes beyond our control can and do occur. The following solar eclipse on September 21st takes place in Virgo in your 9th house of beliefs, suggesting major changes in your beliefs, spirituality, ideals, or what is foreign to you. Again, with the eclipses now activating your 3rd and 9th house axis, fateful developments in your communication or travel are somehow tied to similar fateful developments in your beliefs or spirituality. Keep in mind that events signified by eclipses can take place on the exact date of an eclipse, between eclipses, or even between entire eclipse seasons. Eclipses are erratic and often unpredictable in this way. On November 4th, Mars in Sagittarius opposes Uranus in Gemini. While this is not as long-lasting of an event as what I would typically include in a yearly context, its effects are so potent that it may very well end up defining the entire final quarter of the year, and thus I decided it needed to be included. With Mars in your 12th house opposite Uranus in your 6th house, a sudden challenge involving strong anger or motivation takes place, having to do with your experience of loss or suffering, as well as your work, health, or daily regimen. For example, example, your desire for greater freedom in your work may motivate you to find new or different work. Again, this is just an example, and regardless of how specifically this event plays out for you, it will have a lasting impact on your money, home, and friends. Additionally, you will likely spend all of November and into December rethinking your motivations when it comes to your work or health. More generally, when angry Mars opposes unpredictable Uranus, sudden fighting and rebellion can take place, and we will all see this manifest on an individual and collective level on or around November 4th. Remember in this context that anger does not mean you are doing anything wrong. It is simply an indicator of the need for a boundary. 2025 is a year of great change, and I am not just saying that. Astrologers like myself have had their eye on this year for at least half a decade now due to its powerful indicators of great change. It is not common at all that in one year we have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all changing signs, with Pluto just having changed signs not long before the year began. For you, Capricorn, deep changes and transformations in your money, values, or resources have already begun with Pluto now in Aquarius. You experience increased effort and energy output in your relationships and shared resources in the first half of the year with the retrograde Mars stationing direct in Cancer. You reflect in your relationships in your home, family, or neighborhood in March and April when Venus is retrograde. Eclipses shake things up in your beliefs and travel in March and September as they activate your 9th and 3rd houses. Growth and good fortune come to your relationships from June onward when Jupiter ingresses into Cancer. Confusing realities in your home or family surface this summer when Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries. Sudden liberation of repressed fear or desire takes place in your work, money, or health in early September when Uranus trines Pluto. Finally, your urge for liberation in your work can be held back no longer when Mars opposes Uranus in early November. So I hope you have listened closely to all that I have here said, for 2025 is a year we will never, ever forget.